Alright, welcome everyone. This video is going to be mainly about the Steez AIR TW that just came out. I'm also have a little bit of comparison to the CT so you can see what it looks like. And then this is kind of going to be a prelude to a tackle shoot I'm going to do between the Steez AIR and the Steez CT with an aftermarket spool from AliExpress. Kind of excited to see how that is. Looking at that aftermarket spool, it's actually pretty insane for an AliExpress spool. But onto the Steez AIR TW right here. Big difference. I guess I should start with the backstory. So I had my eye on this reel, of course. I like BFS reels, and hey, Daiwa comes out with a new one. So I'm looking into it, and on paper it looks really sweet. 9-to-1 gear ratio. Comes at like 135 grams total weight, which is less than 5 ounces. Full of bearings. A smaller spool, it's a 28 millimeter spool versus the CT, which was the smallest that Daiwa made at the time, is 30 millimeters. So this should be on paper a very good performing BFS reel. So I was contemplating getting it, and I was like, well, I got to make room in my lineup and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you've ever been through that, but when you have to start weighing where you're gonna move your tackle I have a long winter, so there's really nothing else for me to do. So that's what I do. Anyway, getting back to it, I messaged this guy that I follow on Instagram, Ryan Sagisi. He owns Sagisi Customs right here. What that is he mainly does Cerakoting on a bunch of different firearms. You can check out his page. I'll have the link down below. But he does some real work on the side just for hobby/personal use. So he's not doing that professionally yet, but he does some really sweet work on reels. So I was messaging him because I saw that he got the Steez AIR, and I'm like, hey, how does the thing cast? And so we're going back and forth, and we talked tackle in the past, and he was like, long story short, came down to it. He's like, hey, I'm gonna send you the Steez AIR, and he also sent me a spool for the Steez CT. This is a super shallow spool. Just looking at it, it's more shallow than the one in the AIR. It's ridiculous. Um, yeah, actually, let me pop that open real quick. Like that's what it looks like. That's pretty insane. Like there's barely any metal there. It weighs 4.9 grams with the bearing. That's pretty light. It's like, you know what? That's super generous. Especially because that's a lot of money, and I really do appreciate that because I haven't used this yet, but what if it's a complete dud and I would have wasted 500 something bucks on a reel? So that's how this whole thing come about, and I'll be sending it back to him in a few days because he has some pre-spawn fishing that's coming up and he needs the reel back. All right, moving on to some of the other specs on here. You can see back here, it's about the same size line capacity wise as most of the other BFS reels. Kind of the benchmark is 50 meters of 8-pound line. That's about the same. So this is 45, which is odd because from 5 to 8 pound, as you can see there, it's all 45 meters. So kind of confusing. But see that on there? They have PE line on there. So what that is, that's basically it's braid. So they're actually recommending that you could use braid with this spool. It's still ported, as you can see, but I don't know. Maybe they just kind of got over themselves because a bunch of different BFS reel manufacturers and aftermarket companies will say don't not for use with braided line. I've used braided line on BFS reels for years. Never had a problem. I also wasn't like punching with them or flipping into heavy cover or anything like that. I was using them responsibly. Lighter drag, fishing for smaller fish, and I've been fine for years. Like I said. So more onto the spool. Onto the reel. Some things that really jump out at me is it just looks fast. Like the red and the black, kind of like a racing theme, kind of with the big Daiwa D on the side. And one other thing that sticks out is that handle. Look at that handle. It looks pretty cheap, especially on like Daiwa's high end reel. The Airstream Custom, for example, carbon handle, cork knobs. That's a specialty ported spool as well. It's a very shallow spool. Also, it's I think it's 31 millimeters, which is the same as the Pixie size, but they haven't made the Pixie in quite a while. So they had to actually like engineer the spool almost from scratch, kind of like what they would have had to do with the CT. So there was some engineering cost that went into that reel as well, and you can pick it up for less than 300 bucks. This is almost triple the price, definitely over double the price, and comes with that handle. Like, kind of sad. It does have smaller knobs. I don't know if you can see that. This is the stock Steez CT right here, and those are that's the Steez Air. So they're noticeably smaller knobs. Probably helps cut down the weight because this is 135 grams, which is under 5 ounces. Which this is the first reel that Daiwa made under 5 ounces. I remember when the Steez CT came out. It was actually funny in the Daiwa Japan article. They're talking about, yeah, we could have made it under 5 ounces, but we wanted to make it nice and tough. It's like, why even say it if you didn't do it? That's just me. But they finally did it with the Steez Air. Granted, they cut down a little bit of stuff. They took out the drag clicker, like that right there. Exciting drag sound. That's what Shimano calls it. And this does not have it. It also does not have a clicking drag, although Ryan did tell me that he installed a clicking drag on here. So that's a little skewed. So I think they did that for weight reduction. There's also, check out these pictures of these are some other pictures that show some internal differences. I'm not going to break the guy's reel down because really don't want to have the chance of losing or scratching anything on an expensive reel that I can't get the parts to. So pictures down below. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go out, I'm going to fish this right here. I'm going to use 4-pound Tatsu. That's my, I don't want to say it's my go-to line, but I like 4-pound fluorocarbon on my Stream BFS setup. Just because fluorocarbon, the abrasion resistance, and also I like the way it handles when I'm casting those little crankbaits and stuff for trout. I will also be taking my Aldebaran BFS, the one with the Avail spool. I think I have 3-pound Suffix Nano braid on there. I'll be doing that head-to-head with this reel as well. So, I mean, this reel is going to be going up against some good competition. I think it's going to perform well. I think it just has to. And if it doesn't, well, then this is going to be the cheaper option because this spool, I think it's about 60 bucks. It's a Roro, RO. I'll try to find a link to it down, and I'll put it down below. So that's it really. Excited to get this thing out on the water, and like I said, check out Ryan. There's his Instagram right there, Sagisi Customs. You can see that again. He does some really nice reel work, and I know I'm hopefully I'm at the top of the list when it comes to when he opens up his doors for doing professional reels. So make sure you check him out. You can see some other tackle that he's been doing. He showed me some sneak peeks at some projects he's got going on. It's pretty sweet. He has some good color schemes going on. But subscribe. That video, the shootout video, will be out right when it's done. So it'll be probably 4 days after this video is posted. The other one will probably post. So thanks for watching.